Have you ever really stopped to think about what separates us from them? Well, today we're going to dive into a short but incredibly powerful poem that basically argues the answer is, well, nothing. It gives us this really radical vision of human connection, and we're going to explore exactly how it builds that case step by step.
So the poem just drops this bombshell on us right at the start. I mean, think about it. This one line is a direct challenge to pretty much everything we're taught about borders, flags, and all the things that define our world. The poet is basically telling us to just set aside the maps for a minute and consider something much, much deeper about who we are.
And yeah, that's really the question for us today, isn't it? What if we actually truly took this one line to heart? How would that change how we see everything? The rest of the poem is basically the poet's argument, laying out the evidence piece by piece to convince us that this isn't just some nice idea, but a fundamental reality.
Okay, so where does the poem even start to build this case for a universal family? It doesn't begin with some complicated philosophy or politics. Nope. It starts with the most basic, undeniable thing we all have in common, our own bodies. This is the first piece of evidence, and it just immediately cuts through all the external stuff, all the labels we use. It's arguing that it doesn't matter if you're wearing a soldier's uniform, a doctor's coat, or a farmer's work clothes. Underneath all of that, the biology is exactly the same. It's a single human body that needs air to breathe. Simple as that.
So then the poem asks us to do something simple. Look at our own hands. Maybe they're calloused from work. Think about our eyes, how they wake up and how they fall asleep. And then it asks us to think about them. So what's the difference? Here's the crucial part. The poem insists there is no difference. Their hands show the same signs of a life lived. Their eyes work in the exact same way. It forces you to realize these aren't two separate columns at all. It's a mirror.
In this connection, it's not just physical. It goes way deeper, right down to our emotional core. The argument here is that every single one of us, every human, has a strength that can't be conquered by force, but it can be won over by love. That's a universal language, a kind of common life that anyone, anywhere in the world can recognize and understand.
Okay, so first up was our shared biology. Check. Now the poem kind of zooms out. It moves from our inner world, our bodies, to the outer world we all share. The next part of its case is built on the very ground beneath our feet, the earth itself.
I mean, it doesn't get more fundamental than this, does it? Every single person on this planet, no matter where they're from, is aware of these things. We all feel the warmth of the sun, we all breathe the same air, and we all need water to live. These are the great connectors, the absolute basic needs that tie our entire species together.
And here's the flip side of that, right? Because our needs are shared, that means our vulnerabilities are shared too. Just look at this contrast the poem paints. When there's peace, we're all fed by the earth's harvests, but when there's war, we all starve in its long winter. You see, peace and war aren't just ideas, they're environmental states that affect every single one of us in the same basic, physical way.
Now, this is such a subtle but really powerful choice of words. Notice the poem doesn't say their land or a foreign country. It calls it the land our brothers walk upon. That completely reframes how we think about geography. All of a sudden, it's not a place that divides us, but a home that we share.
And right here, this is the ultimate equalizer. The ground they walk on is just like the ground we walk on. And more than that, it's the very same earth that we will all return to in the end. Our shared mortality is what binds us to each other and to the planet. There's just no escaping this common destiny.
Okay, so if we are all so deeply connected by our bodies, by our planet, what happens when we're told to forget all that? This is where the poem pivots. It moves from showing us the evidence to giving us a stark warning about the destructive lie of hate.
This right here is the absolute core of the poem's warning, and you have to listen really closely to how it's phrased. When we're taught to hate someone else, the poem argues the victim isn't just them. The first, most immediate victim is ourselves. So let's break that down for a second. What does that actually mean? To dispossess ourselves means we rob ourselves of our own humanity. To betray means we're lying to ourselves about the fundamental truth of our connection. And to condemn means we're passing a guilty judgment on our own conscience. The logic here is pretty inescapable. Hating another person is, at its root, an act of self-harm.
And from there, the poem takes that idea of self-harm and follows it to its most brutal logical endpoint. What happens when that internal feeling of hate turns into external action? What happens when we actually take up weapons against each other?
The consequence, according to the poem, isn't just an attack on another group of people. No, the perspective is so much bigger than that. When we go to war, we are fouling our own nest.
We are poisoning the human earth, the one shared home that belongs to every single one of us.
And the poem gets incredibly specific and vivid here. The hells of fire and dust that come from war, they don't just destroy a battlefield. They outrage the innocence of the air itself. And that final point is the kicker. You can't contain that damage. You can't put up a border to stop it, because it pollutes the one atmosphere that is everywhere our own.
So after walking us through this whole journey, from our shared bodies to our shared planet, and then to the self-destructive poison of hate, the poem brings us full circle. It takes us right back to where we started. It's the same line from the beginning, a deliberate echo. But wow, it hits differently now, doesn't it? This time, it's not just a bold claim. It's a conclusion. It's a truth that's been earned by looking at our hands, by thinking about our need for water, and by considering the very air we all breathe. It lands with the full weight of the entire poem behind it.
And that really just leaves us with one last question to take with us. In a world full of noise telling us to see other people as strange, as foreign, what is the one truth from this poem that we can choose to remember today in our own lives?